Hello, I'm Bill Bullard with R-CALF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, it took 8 long years for your calf prices to finally begin responding to incredible beef demand and growing to record beef exports. Today, we're seeing lighter weight calf prices at the same levels they first reached in early 2014. But we have to ask, why the prolonged lag time? Why did it take 8 years, a period in which consumers were paying record prices for beef at the grocery store, for cow-calf producers to begin recovering from seriously depressed prices? Now, if a market is competitive, wouldn't cattle prices respond much quicker to changes in supply and demand, particularly when consumer beef prices continued breaking new records? Well, of course they would, but that's in a competitive market. But yours isn't a competitive market. Consumers can't even initiate demand signals for your domestic cattle. How could they when they can't distinguish your cattle's beef from the beef produced by your foreign competitors in Brazil, Costa Rica, Canada, Mexico, and elsewhere? So rather than a competitive market, your cattle market can best be described as a managed market, one in which competitive market forces are suppressed by the unprecedented bottleneck created in your industry's apex market, which of course is the fed cattle market. And that bottleneck in the apex market is created by the concentrated beef packers that control 85% of the fed cattle market. So in this managed market where competitive forces are suppressed, an external force is needed to break through the suppression. And in an earlier segment, I've referred to this external force capable of freeing up suppressed market forces as an extreme market shock. And that's what we're seeing today. We've witnessed widespread drought in a large portion of cattle country, and this has significantly reduced supplies. As a result of a widespread and massive herd liquidation, latent competitive market forces have once again entered your marketplace. Now, in that earlier segment, the one titled It's Odysseus' Siren Call, I explained that during the past 3 decades, the market has encountered an extreme market shock capable of unleashing latent market forces only 3 times, and this time is the 3rd. But very importantly, please remember what happened the last time the competitive forces in your market were unleashed. That was during and right after the widespread drought of 2011 through 13. That reduced the beef cow herd to the lowest level in over 70 years. Now, everyone back then, beginning in 2015, predicted you would continue experiencing higher prices for 3 more years, a function of the long biological cycle for cattle. For example, economist Glenn Tonser of Kansas State University predicted that cattle prices in 2015 would likely be just as promising as they were in 2014, and that such stronger prices are expected to remain for a couple of years. But that didn't happen. Your calf prices fell from early 2015 to late 2016 by about $150 per hundredweight, representing a per head loss of over $800. So what happened back then? And could it happen again? Well, what happened back then was that the extreme market shock was over, and your marketplace reverted back to a managed market where supply and demand forces were again unable to penetrate the bottleneck in the fed cattle market. And could it happen again? Well, of course it could, because there's been no reforms to the market. And 3 decades of data show it's more likely than not to happen just as it did before. Unless, of course, the industry stands up to restore competition to the marketplace. So we should be grateful for today's higher calf prices, and we should take advantage of the opportunity they provide. That opportunity, of course, is to fix the broken cattle market right now, so it can no longer be managed as it has been during the past several decades. Now, we can restart the flow of competitive market forces into your marketplace by empowering consumers to initiate demand signals for your domestic cattle. What we need your help to do is to enact the American Beef Labeling Act, Senate Bill 2716, that restores mandatory country of origin labeling, or MCOOL, for beef. And then we can restart the flow of competitive market forces in the bottleneck market by forcing the largest packers to actually compete in your industry's apex market, the fed cattle market, by forcing them to purchase at least half their cattle right there. Now, Senate Bill 949, known as the 5014 bill, would make that happen. Yes, more needs to be done, but those are the most important first 2 reforms that we can make, and they will have the most immediate and substantive impact on your systemically broke cattle market. So help us restore competitive market forces in your market each and every day, not just when supplies become exceedingly tight due to infrequent and extreme market shocks. So please go to www.labelOurBeef.com to join with us. With that, have a productive week. Thank you and goodbye.